So, Alan, why do you no longer drink Fairlife? I think that's a great opening question as we kick off our next episode here at Beyond the Pump.
Yeah. Okay. So, all right. I noticed that there was just some odd things floating around the little bottles. You could just sort of feel it, and then I spit it out onto. Okay, this is disgusting. All right. So I spit one of these things out onto a paper towel, and I had already been reading about microplastics and hearing all the hysteria over it, and microplastics and nanoplastics and all this stuff. And so I know that Fairlife got kind of caught in the crossfire of that concern with I mean, it was like their core or something product, or they had a high level of compounds that were not so good. In any case, there were actual like sheets of stuff, like tangible, like substantial particulates over here in this Fairlife bottle. And then I left that, I guess you would call it a sample, out overnight. And then the next day it was dried up. And when you touched your nail on, it's like tick, tick, tick. I was like, holy crap, man, this is just gnarly. It feels like plastic, looks like plastic. Here I am just chugging some. I'm fulfilling the lore of microplastics now, like almost becoming like a macroplastic dose. So I just figured maybe I had a bum bottle, maybe it's not the whole batch that's like this. But sure enough, had another bottle, same issue, and just these sheets that were literally just felt like plastic, looked, well, that was brown, but I mean, it was alarming and it was disturbing, and it's really no skin off my back to just kick the stuff out. And just sort of, I just decided to take the safe route, error on the safe side, because it's not like I needed that stuff in my life.
Definitely made life convenient, though.
Yeah, it was very convenient, and it was good. It was delicious. But now I'm back to my standard, blend up the protein shakes type of thing.
So I'm just gonna highlight quick because we'll just call a spade a spade. There's more than one difference between me and the other three people on this recording today. The one major difference is when I think of kind of the science and the background and the nutrition side of things. I'm way more of that consumer part here. Why are you making that face, Andrew?
Because of our pre-show conversation, I thought that was going a different direction.
No. We're recording now. We can't say things like that. Nice. We got him to laugh. This is really
Steve's life matters, you guys. His life.
Oh my God.
Really matters.
Oh my God. Oh.
Anyways, so I had a case of the Fairlife Elite protein shakes over the summer, and inside there was a black kind of chocolatey ring on the inside of the cap, and I'm like, maybe I just let them sit too long, or they weren't shaken up, or anything like that. Yeah, it's fine. I got to get my protein, or my coach is going to yell at me, and I still got to do the things because I'm not eating right while I'm on the road and driving. So just as the consumer, just blow right past these things that are in my shake. And now we're having this conversation, and I'm like, that's I probably should have pulled an Alan, investigated this thing a little bit more instead of just trusted the package that I bought. I have another case to get through, so I'll go. I'm going to explore that one a little bit. So I'll report back and let you guys know how that one's shaping up to be.
Well, apparently, research,
it was really disappointing, man. I really love the stuff, and I was even going to start, tagging Fairlife, maybe see if I could court, a big Fairlife partnership.
Get him by the pallet.
Well, if you still want to do that, we should probably cut out this first piece of here.
Yeah.
You can let us know. You got a few days, but
yeah.
Just filter them out. Just dump all of them through a little strainer and it'll be fine.
It'll be fine.
Yeah, it'll be fine. I mean, it's not like it supposedly caused your thyroid gland to explode or anything.
Right. It's not like it collects in plaque accumulation.
Yeah, that is a whole different conversation, which I mean, I think is a great segue into, you know, being able to discern what's meaningful and what's not here in 2024 as we're recording this podcast, because there are a lot of sensationalized pieces of information out there that people definitely tend to hype up between the diets, between things like the microplastic, research that's starting to emerge and potentially be problematic. They can't even find a control group apparently to find, people that don't have microplastics circulating in a significant volume. So, you know, definitely something we'd like to cover. Is there anything that you're aware of as you have your ear to the ground as it relates to common things that people regularly mess up in 2024, or things that are over sensationalized when it comes to nutrition?
Yeah. People have this perpetual tendency to focus on the things that don't matter, the little things. So we've got the proverbial big rocks, the boulders, and people are just all over the place focusing on the little grains of sand that may or may not have any significant impact in the course of a lifetime or two. And then there's the lure of presenting stuff that's novel, or trying to convey that you have some sort of special knowledge that you want to offer the world and the audience. You found the secret, you found the culprit, you found the scapegoat, the smoking gun. And so I think there's a lot of that going on with various compounds, various nutritional elements. We've gone through the battery of the nutritional scapegoats with dietary fat in the 80s, and through the 90s it was the beginning of vilifying carbohydrate, and then through the 2000s we've got the vilification of sugar, and then through like the 2010s people got really stupid and started picking on seed oils, and that's kind of where we're at. I mean, people miss the big picture that we, by virtue of multiple converging lines of both environmental issues, lifestyle issues, and just the state of how people conduct their lives, we're just eating too much of everything. And sometimes it's purposeful, a lot of times it's not. And there's just a lot of psychological issues wrapped around all of that perpetuate and exacerbate the problem of chronic disease, metabolic disease, and just diseases related to excess intake. It all just goes excess intake, excess accumulation of body fat, sedentary living. I mean, that's the big picture. It's not this particular food. It's seed oils, or it's that little bit of added sugar in your diet. It is the big picture. How can we simply structure a lifestyle that facilitates healthier body composition, more regular physical activity, and a higher quality diet in general, without chasing this sort of perfectionism, orthorexia, and this neurotic idea that we need to maintain this huge avoid list of foods, and then we need to kind of deify this list of superfoods that must be in everybody's diet and stuff. So I don't know. There's a lot wrapped up in that. So
what I heard you say is sweet potatoes and rice isn't the issue. It's eating too much sweet potatoes or rice. Listen, Andrew, I'm the client here. This is not my realm. Nutrition is not my jam. You want me to grow your business? I got you. Nutrition, I call my buddies. I know a few people that can help with that, right? So, and the story, Alan, that Andrew will always tell is when we first started our relationship as friends and colleagues, it was really this conversation where I'm like, and I grew up 90s and Atkins and carbs are bad and whatever. And it's taken me like 3 years to wrestle that thing away. But the literal question I was asking is, which one should I eat, sweet potatoes or rice? I was dead serious. And the best part is we had that conversation, and the thing I walked away with was not the answer. And Andrew, I don't even know if you know this. The thing
Yeah.
I walked away with was, if you cook the rice and then you put it in the fridge and get it cold, you end
Resistance.
up changing the starch or resistance or something like that, because that's what I think Mike had said to me. So for the next year, I proceeded to go and eat cold chicken and rice basically every day for lunch, not because I wanted to change the rice, but rather, oh, well, I don't have a lot of time and I get yelled at when I stand up and walk around and eat my lunch. So let me just sit down, and it's easy just to eat it, weigh it out, and I'm good to go. And I justified it by this little thing that was going to change the entire way rice interacted with my body, just through somebody saying something. And again, I'm the consumer. Now you guys will be happy to know, I even heated my lunch up today. You guys will be happy to know. And I made, for the first time at home on my griddle, fried rice. So I ate fried rice today. So
I love that you thought that was a great dish amongst this group for sure. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. You know, and it's interesting though that because for me, the thing that I recall from that conversation was that it was early in the morning. There were three of us in the gym, in this like really shitty hotel gym. And we were just like, at that point, I was like, it doesn't really matter. Just pick whichever you prefer. And the fact that you latched on to the resistant starches that were a result of, cooling off the rice, I think that that really is such a great microcosm of what we're seeing in the information space today. And Alan, I'd love your opinion on like how do people that hear these random bits and pieces of information that may be highly nuanced or contextualized for a specific question, how can people start to discern and make sure that they're either understanding that's not for them and it's not appropriate for them to take that advice, or how do they start to integrate some of that stuff in an appropriate way?
That's a tough that's a tough question to answer, other than telling people who to go ask. I mean, okay, if you're talking about the lay public with no actual clue how to even do a scientific search, a basic, just turn your Google search into something remotely scientific, you know, just adding the PubMed search term or adding the PubMed Central search term to a Google search changes the entire set of search results. I mean, the general public just doesn't know these things. So a lot of times you have to tell them either go ahead and get some sort of formal education on nutrition, or a good certification, or some good mentorship in that direction, or know who to go ask or who to go consult about stuff. Yeah, I don't even know how to truly how to answer that, because with the resistant starch issue that Steve brought up, this is something that the general public is really susceptible to. If you hear that, okay, cooling down the starch um, after you cook it uh, significantly reduces the energy yield, or the caloric yield, um, or the it reduces the metabolizable energy. I mean, if you hear something like that, you go, "Oh, damn! Okay, so I can have my rice and eat it too. I can reduce the amount of calories I'm taking in just by doing this cooling thing, and then it'll do this and that." All right, so maybe if the general public knew that these short-term mechanistic findings, they don't always pan out when you kind of look at what is the ultimate endpoint that you're concerned with. So if the ultimate endpoint you're concerned with is excess weight gain or excess fat gain, then try to find the research that examines that endpoint. There are multiple little steps along the way to the ultimate manifestation of something like excess body weight or excess body fat, obesity, or some sort of disease endpoint. try to find the research that looks at that disease endpoint, because the mechanisms and the kind of these little micro processes that may or may not matter, they're interesting, but what you do from a practical perspective is really going to lean on the ultimate endpoint. So have we seen research showing that the resistant starch content of a given amount of carbohydrate intake within an actual diet, does that meaningfully influence things like body composition at the end of a period of weeks or months? That's really what we're looking at. Does it influence things like glycemic control at the end of a chronic period? And so I've actually looked at the research on resistant starch, how it affects body fat. And the literature in that area is highly anticlimactic for resistant starch. It just doesn't have this effect that you would want it to have. So if resistant starch content of the carbohydrate within your diet doesn't significantly impact body composition, then it's a lot of heating and cooling over nothing. Okay, great. Maybe in the short term, it might show changes in bioavailable nutrition or metabolizable energy. But what really counts is the chronic effects. Does it affect body weight and body composition? And the answer is a big fat, nah, not really. And it's not worth worrying about. It's one of those little details that you can drive yourself crazy with. And like what Steve did, he suffered through these cold meals for a time period.
I didn't suffer. That was easy.
He loved it. It was so wild.
You're getting after it.
It made life easy.
Okay.
Andrew knew me well enough that my wife had gone away on vacation, I think, for like 5 days. And all of a sudden I didn't eat cold chicken and rice for like 5 days in a row at lunch. And we get on our call on a Friday morning and he's like, Steve, is everything okay? And he didn't know she was away, but he just saw my food habits change completely out of the blue. And I'm like, yeah, why? He's like, well, you didn't eat the chicken and rice every day. And I just, like, were you ordering food extra? Like, is everything okay with Jen? And he's going on and on just because of my food habit. But I won't share the exact joke I normally say, but one of the things that Jen always does is make sure that the refrigerator has some type of carb and protein sitting in there so I can just quick grab food and eat. And this week that wasn't available. So the assumption was there was an issue going on. And the reality was she was on vacation, but it wasn't intentional eating cold. It was just a justification to not heat it up and spend less time. Because the thought of spending 20 minutes eating lunch on myself and sitting down was like daunting for me.
Wow. You're at that point. You're moving and shaking right now. That's epic, man. That's epic. Well, at least some of the lack of need to have specifically cooled rice with the chicken. So
yeah. Well, and I think you bring up a great point when as people are trying to navigate their health journeys these days, it seems like there's this oversimplification. There's a significant amount of reductionism where people are like, considering the testosterone and growth hormone effects after a workout, people are like, oh, well, you want to maximize your testosterone. Well, we see that transient increase isn't necessarily correlated with increased hypertrophy or performance outcomes. And so, but everyone's obsessed about making sure that, I got to make sure my testosterone stays high and whatnot. So I think it's very similar, it sounds like, in terms of reducing a lot of that adaptation or a lot of those nutritional recommendations to that singular attributable nutrient that actually probably really doesn't have any longitudinal impact to the degree that we would think. So when I think about that, for the average person that may not necessarily be in the literature, you mentioned finding trusted sources. How might someone start to be able to find that? Like, how can they determine, hey, this person's saying something that is probably going to be a trusted source, and I can more or less focus on, just taking in what they're saying and rationalizing and thinking through that?
Well, I would just go straight to alanaragon.com. No, I mean, yeah, I would, but in all seriousness, it's almost like we need a directory of practitioners and figureheads, organizations that respect science and evidence. But what I try to do is I point highly interested folks in. I point them towards the position stands of organizations like the ISSN, the NSCA, the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, and the American College of Sports Medicine, and some of their joint position stands too. So but then again, getting a layperson to read a position paper is a very huge ask. But that tends to be a safe bet for state of the evidence on a given topic that has some research behind it. Otherwise, it's just tough. You just need a directory of evidence-based bros. And look, we're all trying to find out. We're all trying to mess around and find out. Okay. I like to think of researchers as just a bunch of ants scratching their way towards the core of the earth. So the core of the earth has the truth, and we're just a bunch of ants clawing our way there. And we're at various points, on that journey to the truth. But at least we're rigorously and diligently trying to do it truthfully. It's just hard to say. We just need a master list of people who respect science, and there you go. I mean, the organizations, other than the ones that I listed, that I would trust, are, well, naturally. I mean, I've been working for NCI since January, and so the goal is to science the shit out of NCI and make them at least one of the standards for evidence in the nutrition space. But I'm telling you, it's just really, really tough. It's a tough question to answer, Andrew. Like, where do people go? There's like a handful of names, a handful of names of people who have sacrificed their lives and their Oprah / Dr. Phil / Dr. Oz potential to just stick with the boring evidence,
So you're saying that Saladino is in that list? Get our views up. No, I'm kidding. We're not fucking. Well, I mean, hey, listen, punch up, right? Punch up if you can. But no,
wait,
and I think.
Hold on. I don't need him coming at me because
he's fine.
I was gonna say
he's too busy walking around shirtless in an aisle of a grocery store somewhere.
I mean, do you need me to call him and fact check this right now? I will.
It's fine.
I will.
But I think to ground it, in what you're saying, it is really challenging for people to discern, like, hey, is this accurate? Is this relevant? And I think that those are the two biggest things that are missing in the over information saturation, which I think really makes any professional inside of the health industry beholden to a certain standard and morality and ethical code that we're actually really important for combating a lot of that misinformation by putting out the micro pieces of content. So if you're a coach and you're listening, like, I think that you really can contribute a lot more than what you might think when it comes to putting out good quality information and continuing to learn from things like Alan's research review or his book, Flexible Dieting, which is a phenomenal read, by the way. And discerning, like, is it a rigid thing? Is it a flexible type of approach that you're going to need? And, those will not always be the case with all the people all the time. So how do you know which to go down? And that's usually experiential or educational, or hopefully a combination of both. But I will say, like, one of the things that I found really helpful early on, having gone down too many educational rabbit holes that were pretty conflicting, you find that, like, the NSCA and CrossFit were at odds for a while, to the degree that there was a lawsuit involved. And, so early on, that was very confusing for me. And I think that I wish I had thought or I wish I had this one criteria that I found really meaningful, in that if the person that's speaking can't speak to their biases and they can't speak to the limitations of that perspective, then it automatically invalidates that entirety of it, because now they can't look at how it fits into potentially a bigger paradigm or a bigger piece of
Yeah.
information that someone can scaffold off of. It's You hit the nail on the head. I think that, and I love the analogy. It's a big anthill and everyone's just trying to do their part, and it seems like there's 50 million things going on. So
Yeah.
then how do we determine where the boundary of one piece of work ends and another starts? And there's so much overlap that, again, if it sounds too good to be true and it's too simple, there's probably a lot more nuance. And that's where digging through and having those conversations and reaching out, and people that are generally proponents of the industry and really care about pursuing, a rising tide lifts all boats and really being that mentor, they will usually give you some modicum of time. Like when I reached out to you to come speak at an event that we were hosting in 2022, you were so gracious and generous. And in fact, you were the first person that responded, sliding into your DMs. And I think like at the time you had 250,000 followers on Instagram. And I was astounded just and elated to even hear back from you, having done the research that you've done. So, just I would say reach out to the people. And if it seems too easy or too simple, it probably is. And to like maybe ask some clarifying questions of when is it appropriate and when is it not appropriate. So,
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great point. So people who say a lot of always and a lot of never and paint things out as just extreme black and white, vilify these foods, deify these foods, or better yet, even with just structuring the diet, like everybody has to do some degree of fasting, or everybody has to do some degree of cinching down their eating window, or everybody has, or even absurd things like, oh, if you want longevity, well, you better stop eating, brother. If you want longevity, well, you better stop
oh,
eating protein, like
uh-huh.
this incredibly stupid things like that, all the way to seemingly sensible things like cut out all processed food, cut it out, all ultra processed, cut it out. Okay, how is that possible? How is that sustainable? And would you consider protein powder to be processed? Of course it is, but it's still healthy. So there's nuances there. And this is why like the long form conversations now are such a cool thing, and it's so important. And something that you raised, when it's easy to tell when somebody is a charlatan because they will present their material as the end all, and they'll present it with absolute certainty, and they will have no clue of even beginning to think of what are the limitations to this information. What are the limitations and the gaps in the gray areas in what I believe? So if somebody can't tell you that, and then you've got an issue there. Then you've got a guru on your hands.
Yeah, it's funny because you look at the expansion of how people answer questions, kind of similar to the Dunning-Kruger effect and how that curve goes. The people that are at the peak in the beginning and they don't really know much of anything. They speak with so much certainty, but as you go further, you start to realize that, and this is one thing I've picked up from a lot of professionals that have been industry experts for over, several decades, and that they'll usually respond with, I don't know, or they'll usually start asking a slew of clarifying questions that by the time they're done with their questioning, you're like, I don't even care anymore. Like,
Yeah,
because they care
yeah,
so much about giving you the precisely nuanced answer that, I mean, it makes so much sense, but there's just so many considerations the more information you have. And, I think most people are probably too busy to take the time really to think through the quality of the questions they ask. And if you are a consumer and you are trying to figure out an answer to a question, the more clarifying information you have around the question, the more precise the answer can give you. So if you are reaching out to experts like Alan, and you're like, "Hey, what's the best diet?" That's probably one of the worst questions you could ever ask someone, because there's just so much unknown as professionals that we would then have to claw through and understand. And it's, at that point, you just book a sales conversation and hire him as a coach. Just hopefully you're going to get all your life savings you're going to toss to him.
As not a professional, I can recommend the best diet though. I got the answers for you guys
I
I
always.
like
can't
that.
mute him. I can't mute him.
I like the confidence.
I would be the worst question to ask. I'd be like, water, protein, and sleep. That's what I've learned over 3 years. Focus on those things.
Yeah.
If you're gaining weight, you should probably eat a little less calories. And what does your strength routine look like? And then be like, I have no idea how to answer any of those. I'm like, well, shit out of luck then, because I'm not the guy.
Actually, I think that's a great way of looking
an
at it.
interesting perspective, right? Because like with Steve representing the lay public, right off the bat, they're not going to anchor onto more than like 3 main things at a time, right? So if you can get somebody to anchor on, okay, drink some water instead of drinking a bunch of like wine and beer and sugar sweetened beverages, focus on protein. And when you focus on protein, we all know that defaults you to having greater satiety, preserving lean body mass, having a greater, thermic effect if you want to get cute about it. And then sleep. Sleep will enable you to train productively, train, with as much effort as you need to put in. Getting enough sleep will also help you regulate hunger and appetite and stuff. And so just focusing on those 3 things that's really damn good, Steve. Bravo.
You did. Yeah, bravo. Well, I'd be curious, Brandon, what are your top 3 things that, if you were to give people some anchor points that you really look for as a nutrition professional?
Honestly, Steve knocked him out. That's exactly what I tell people. It's your sleep, making sure, and I mean, going back to the beginning, what Alan said, taking care of those big rocks. And so my 3 big ones that I tell people is get your sleep in order, get your hydration in order, and get your stress and or your steps in order, depending on where they're at with stress or where they're at with their steps. Because going back to that question, like, what is the best diet? And I get a lot of people asking me that at my CrossFit gym. And it turns into a whole thing because I'm always like, well, it depends. What are your goals? Are you trying to do this comp that's coming up in a few months? Are you trying to lose weight? I know you've talked about wanting to also have these aesthetic goals. And it was and then at that point, they're just like, I just want a quick answer. I don't know. Can I eat cane still? I was like, I don't know. It depends. Are you trying to gain weight? Trying to lose weight? Like, what's the goal right now? But yeah, But yeah, I really like what you guys had to say too about everything about the way that's why I wanted to get into dietetics, was really to be a source, to be able to combat misinformation. Because I was watching this thing, this guy was talking, his name is Obi-Wan Kenobi, and he said that only Sith deal in absolutes. And so it is really prevalent to the conversation that we're talking about right now, because that is really how people talk on Instagram and TikTok and stuff like that. So he's a really wise guy. So if you what? Yes, what's that, Steve?
Did you
plugged Obi-Wan Kenobi?
Obi-Wan Kenobi, yes, sir.
Like,
yes.
you were just a normal human, that you were just having a conversation.
No, I saw him on TV.
You did it so nonchalantly, like nobody was going to pick up on the fact that he's talking about a sci-fi character in a distant galaxy far, far away. What the? I had a double take. What the fuck did he just say? Obi-Wan Kenobi? Yeah, I mean, first of all, the real question, Brandon, are you a Jedi or a Sith?
Oh,
you can get into this. We can.
You get one quick.
I have to say, I like the concept of Jedi, but I probably am a Sith. With the core of everything.
Okay. Alan, what would you be?
I would identify with being a Jedi.
Okay. Steve,
identify.
I gotta ask ChatGPT what I am, because I've never watched either.
What is? Oh my goodness, that's wild. Uncultured.
This thing, right?
Stop it! You stop that. I would say I'm a Sith as well. I'm not really super neutral. I tend to be a little more passionate about stuff. So it's.
I almost joined Team Sith after seeing Darth Maul for the first time. I was like,
I know
that was wild. Awesome.
Oh, I'm
And I
100%
was
a Sith
walking.
looking at this.
Okay. All right. Three Siths and a
Yeah,
Jedi. That's what the
yeah.
new podcast is. We're gonna make this a weekly thing. No, but I think that obviously there's decades of experience on this call and on this podcast, and I, I think that it's really easy for people to start to compare themselves to like I should have this information. I should know how to do all this stuff. I think that maybe it might be helpful for our listeners to switch gears here for a second and get to know the people or specifically Alan prior to a lot of the nutrition background that you have now and kind of how you came into that. Like um what prompted you to even want to pursue your master's and your educational journey as it related to nutrition.
Man, okay, so we're going back. Okay, so I graduated high school in 1990, um, which is a long time ago.
Why are you
And
laughing, Andrew?
It's a good
Okay.
year.
He said we're going way back. I wanted to make a joke of like, was that as far back as we're gonna go? Because I mean, you were the fastest sperm cell at one point, but I left that one
that's
alone.
true.
So just
That's
we'll
true. I
edit this
won.
out.
That was
The
one. That was
He
four
one
of
of
was.
us, the four of us all won.
I did the proper glycogen loading protocol prior to getting that. So yeah. so so
It
okay,
tapered well.
with having graduated in 1990 and the
Mhm.
fitness thing, like fitness as a career was really in its infancy. So personal training as a career was kind of non-existent. I mean, in the late 1980s, you had a few fitness personalities on the infomercials, and you had some bodybuilders in the gym showing people how to work out, and it was really kind of the birth of personal training as a kind of a niche, a fringe job that a handful of people had, and so it was just kind of it was sort of an attractive vocation for me, kind of the idea of being a personal trainer to the celebs, because living in Southern California, you're kind of, you're in the land of, crazy people, but, you're also in the land of the entertainment industry and all of that. And kind of the glamour and the allure of that kind of that lifestyle and being able to say, yeah, I'm a trainer to the stars. Um, I saw the possibility for that, and I didn't really care that it wasn't a mainstream job because I had a couple of friends who were making more than my registered dietitian colleagues doing personal training, and they're like, yeah, I just took this weekend certification. You can either go with NASM or NSCA, and I went with NASM. They're a little newer, a little cooler. They got a little more of the bodybuilding bent at the time. NSCA was headed by a completely different organization, so it was headed by Tom Purvis, who had a physical therapy background, but he was 100% bro too in terms of his love for bodybuilding and physique and the narcissism. It was perfect. So shout out Tom Purvis. He's a brilliant guy. So okay, so my career, even before that, like I'm kind of an artsy person. I consider myself more creative and literary and musical than anything. All of those things come very natural to me. I can that stuff is just innate. The sciencey stuff, I really had to kind of put some effort into learning that process and kind of that role. So prior to getting my degrees in the biological sciences, I actually was en route to getting an art degree. Um, it's just an
Wow.
odd thing. It's a
It's
strange
wild.
thing. So I just had natural artistic ability, and my parents specifically said, if your goal is to become an artist, you're just gonna starve. There's a term starving artist, and that term exists for a reason. So if you're going to do art, then go into graphic design. And I'm like, I can't go ahead and get a degree in like fine art or something like that. No, you're going to get a degree in graphic design. And I'm like, oh, okay. So spent a year and a half in that major, kind of hated it. And in the meantime, I'm seeing covers of magazines with the greased up, tanned up, oiled up, steroided up bodybuilders. And, I'm going, damn, that looks really cool. And there's this fitness thing too, like, and this fitness industry or this culture at least is kind of growing, this burgeoning culture in the 90s where people are showing each other how to get in shape in the gym. And then that's what made me ultimately break away from the art major. Because I sat down with one of my counselors at the junior college at the time, and she's like, "What are you interested in? What do you like?" And I'm all, "Oh, yeah, that's a good question." I guess I should have started off with that question before I picked a freaking major, right? And I said, "You know what? I like fitness. I like training. I like nutrition." And then she said, "Okay, so it looks to me like you need to choose between the major of exercise science or nutrition. What do you think of that?" And I'm like, that makes a lot of sense. so that was the big thought process. I struggled between what do you choose? I like them both. I like exercise. I like nutrition. And so I consulted with my girlfriend at the time, and she said, this pretty brilliant advice. She's like, "Well, you told me that you can get a weekend certification and become qualified to be an exercise person, right? So since that exists and there's no nutrition certification, why don't you get the personal training certification and major in nutrition?" And I'm like, yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, that makes sense. I'm going to do that. And so that's the route I took. I got out of my art major and I majored in nutrition. I completed the undergrad degree. And then, of course, when you get a nutrition degree, you're sort of shoehorned into this track of becoming a registered dietitian, because the American Dietetic Association, which was called that at the time, now it's called the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, they sort of have a monopoly on the nutrition practitioner industry. Okay, they sort of have this dominion, or they at least want to have this dominion and this monopoly on that profession. So they have their tentacles in all of the major universities' curriculums, and it essentially, sorry for the term, it essentially grooms all the students to become registered dietitians. And so that was the track that I was in. And it was almost like this current that you go into a river. If you dive into that river, you're going to be a registered dietitian, or else it doesn't make sense for you to be getting a degree in nutrition. And so once I was done with my undergrad degree, all of my colleagues were filing off for dietetic internships and stressing out over getting the 1-year internship done and then taking the RD exam. And that didn't appeal to me because, number one, I still liked the fitness angle and the wellness angle, and the dietetics curriculum was really focused on clinical applications at the time. There wasn't like now where in the dietetics industry, there's wellness, there's sports nutrition. Back then it was just like making hospital diets, basically. So it was a different thing like 3 decades ago. And so I'm like, ooh, I don't like this. I don't think I'm going to be a registered dietitian. I think I'll just get a master's degree in nutrition and take it from there, And so I did that, and it happened to be a good thing for me in the trajectory of my career. Because when I got the master's degree in nutrition, I found out that living in Southern California, you can pretty much work as a nutritional counselor or do pretty much anything a registered dietitian is allowed to do legally, but not within like a hospital setting or a government setting. And so I didn't necessarily want that anyway. And so I ended up doing personal training and nutritional counseling, like both of them. I literally did both of those things almost full time. And I did that for 10 years. So I did mostly personal training for the first 10 years. And then the 10 years following that, I mixed personal training with mostly nutritional counseling. And then 20 years just zipped by. And then over the past 12 years, I mainly have been involved with research and education and teaching professionals and helping the public with what I learned during the previous 32 years. So during the last 10 to 15 years, I was one of the guys who sort of pioneered and started the evidence-based movement in the fitness industry. And also during the past 12-ish years, 10 years, I was pulled into the research world by a guy that you all know, Brad Schoenfeld. And he was able to essentially invite me onto research projects. And ever since he did that, I've been, I guess, discovered by other research groups as well. And I've been able to publish, almost 30 papers now over the past 10 years. And a lot of those papers have shaped the practice guidelines for personal trainers and dietitians. And currently it's, that's where I'm at right now. So I just literally walked you guys through the last 30 plus years. So thank you for coming to my TED Talk, you guys.
I mean, you skipped
Did it
over a lot of
eloquently. It was quick. It was a quick 30-year recap. So I think it was necessary information to understand, because I think trying to think like that person starting out, though, going and taking that weekend course is step one, but it is only step one. And there is so much that can happen beyond that. Because I was that guy that took the weekend course for NASM Essentials or something like that. I think it used to be called in the 2000s, not the 90s. And, going from that aspect. So I get it, but I think everybody needs to hear that. It's the first step, but it's certainly not the last step.
Yeah. And it's really interesting when I talk to people who are starting out on their career path. Let's say they just graduated college, and even people in their, who didn't just graduate college, they're just still just young in their 30s, they don't realize that it's really common to have 2, 3, 4 major career changes in the course of your adult life. So in my case, I started off thinking, maybe I'll go into graphic design. That immediately didn't go. And then I thought, okay, I want to be a personal trainer. I want to be the best personal trainer ever. Okay, I did that for about 10 years. And I never would have anticipated that I would go into nutritional counseling full time for another 10 years and then go into education and research. Like at the beginning, the sheer difference between saying, I want to be a personal trainer to the stars in LA, to, okay, I'm going to be speaking at a conference talking about the research my colleagues and I just published. Those are two completely different things. And I didn't plan that. I didn't even aspire to that, but that's how it evolved. And I think it's super important to get it across that I like this role better than any of the previous roles in my evolution. And it really is all about just following your bliss, so to speak, like following what you're interested in most and just sticking to that objective. And then you end up where you need to be, at the best spot you could possibly be at any given time.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's looking back on careers and the evolution of life. It really does seem like you never know what's going to unfold until you try something. So your mess around and find out variant of our fuck around, find out. I think that's definitely meaningful. And I think a lot of people that are terrified to make the wrong decision, I think that's ultimately going to just waste time. make up your mind one way or the other and let it go the course that it's going to run. You can always switch later. And I think that's, everyone's just terrified. So
Yeah,
I
I
love
have
that.
2 kids. I have 2 boys. One of them's 18, well, going to be 18 in a month, and the other one's 20. And they're just, really stressing over what am I
Right.
going to do with my life?
Mhm.
And the answer is you take the first step and you dive in hardcore and you just literally do your best at whatever you're going to try to do at the moment. And your career will evolve how it's going to evolve. That's just, you can't know where you're going to be in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. I certainly didn't know. It's let me tell you how insane this is. I'm speaking in Singapore at the end of September, and I didn't know I had an audience who would come see me in Singapore, but people are flying in from all over the place to come see me speak in Singapore, and it's like, whoa, that's wild. That's insane. And then in October, I'm going to speak in the Dominican Republic, and apparently I've got this big audience in the freaking Dominican Republic, and I never ever would have anticipated or predicted that at the beginning when I wanted to show people how to train and get fit, on a one-on-one basis. So it's absolutely insane. But also, I didn't predict the internet happening. I didn't predict social media happening. You know, so there's a lot of stuff, man. A lot of stuff.
Yeah. Well, I think that's probably a great segue to start to draw to a close as we bump up against the hour mark here. And there's so many different things that we were able to touch on, from how to understand where people should find quality information to your own personal journey. What are any closing thoughts that you have for maybe the early career professionals that are feeling a little bit discouraged? Because we know that imposter phenomena is rampant everywhere right now. Everyone that, I would say not everyone, but the overwhelming majority of people that, the 23,000 individuals that I was over, had the privilege of coaching and working with over at Company A, like that was a recurring theme. People always just said, I don't know if I'm doing the right thing. So, I mean, do you have any closing thoughts as we wrap up on how they can potentially navigate that specific issue?
Uh, Gosh, it sounds so trite, man. It sounds so trite. But you have to, at the very beginning, assess what it is that you are interested in life in general. I was genuinely obsessed with the idea of getting more fit and improving wellness and you know even things like body composition, more muscle, less body fat, looking better and feeling better. Um, Giving yourself the potential to live a long and vigorous and productive life. I was just super duper obsessed with that, and I'm still obsessed with it. This is something that's just like a part of me. It's like deep within me to want to succeed and stay successful in terms of health and fulfillment. Uh, so the fitness route was really perfect for me. Um, I just kind of boiled my mission statement down just recently, and so it's almost like a life mission statement as well as a professional mission statement, and that is to become my best self, teach others how to do the same, so they can teach others how to do the same. And that's it. And that's what I'm obsessed with, man. So if you're somebody who's obsessed with wanting to build the next best rocket to Mars, you need to follow that path and just go hard with it, and don't always second guess. If you know what you're interested, like, there are different philosophies that there's one side says you don't have to know what you're passionate about. Just if you don't know what you're like, you don't know what you're really interested in, then just choose something, and the better you get at it, the more interested you will get in it, and then you can succeed through basically whatever. If you don't have an innate passion or liking or whatever, I am more of the side that says, look, take a step back and think about what it is that you're passionate about. And if you're not passionate about it, what are you at least highly interested in? And then pursue that, and then pursue it hard. Know that the way that life goes is that you won't be able to predict everything. And so but as long as you're going hard in that path, then the doors that open and the way the road diverges, it's always, for the most part, going to be a good thing. And life will keep trending forward despite the setbacks, as long as you are going super hard towards what you really like, what really interests you. So that's what I would say. And I even tell my kids, I'm like, look, you guys, you're at a point where you can pick the initial road that you want to walk. I don't care whether it's a risky road. I don't care if one of you wanted to be an actor. If you want to be an actor, then try to be the best damn actor ever. Like, do your homework, get your training, take the classes, do whatever it takes to become the best actor ever, and then just go hard at it. Oh, you want to be a singer? Same thing, like risky jobs, like entertainment. Or, hey, if you want to be a lawyer, you want to be a doctor, if you want to be an architect or engineer, then you can go those safe routes, right? But you just have to pick what you're interested in, at what you're most interested in at the time. And that's what I would tell folks. And about the fitness industry, Andrew, it's a tough industry, and people think it's kind of a cakewalk, and people think they're going to go in there, they're going to set up an Instagram, and then they're going to get a huge audience. It's easy, man. It's easy. Going into the fitness industry means you need to be able to employ or deploy multiple skill sets, including the capturing of an audience and the communicating with people and an audience, and the consistency of putting yourself out there. And it's tough. As long as people know that it's a really difficult road that takes a lot of effort, but it's also really rewarding, then they won't be blindsided when they step into the fitness realm and find out that it's a toughie. It's a tough one. So follow the right people like Brandon Yamaguchi, Steve Copshaw, and Andrew Garrettson, and then you absolutely will have a leg up. And that's not even kidding. That's like a serious. So
I appreciate
and follow Alan as well. Let's be honest. Let's be honest here.
Buy his book, subscribe to his research review. But definitely it sounds like get interested and then put the effort in. So definitely some great words of wisdom. As we are butting up against the hour, any closing remarks, Brandon, Steve, or Dallin?
It's just so cool to be able to sit down and talk with you, Alan. Been a big fan over the last few years, so it's kind of cool. You're my Singapore. You are my Singapore. Here we are. We're followed your research, and now here we are.
It means a lot, dude. Honestly, it means a lot. Like, after you've put in the amount of time that I have, like just hearing those things, that knowing that an impact has been made, a profound impact has been made in people's journeys, that's the priceless thing. That is worth more than money. So yeah, I love hearing that. I appreciate that.
Yeah, Alan, thank you for the time. It's been a great conversation, and I'm happy that I can sit on the kind of consumer side of things and ask those questions a little bit, and try to be relatable that way, because I get to listen to you, watch you on social media, and I'm like, I just that's not how my brain works with these things. But on the other side of it, the simplicity and the ability to have a conversation and walk away smarter myself over the past hour has been hugely valuable. So I will be reaching out again, and I'm sure we'll be chatting again. But again, thank you for the time.
I'd love to do it again, man. Just let me know, and I will get my camera set up properly.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess for me to close it out, I remember there was a social media thing. So for those of you that are hesitant to get on there, that's how I found Alan originally. This was probably close to 8 years ago now. And I saw that he was producing a lot of great content. I'm like, wow, this is phenomenal. My nutritional background was less than my physiology background. So started following him, found his research review, and I was starting my doctorate at the time. And I actually emailed Alan when he sent me a receipt for my first one. I was like, oh my gosh, like, thank you so much. Cause he actually took the time to send me a thank you email. Hey, thank you so much for subscribing. You're contributing to a greater thing, and I was like, wow, that's really cool. Okay. Hey, like, I'm looking at doing some research. Do you have any suggestions on how to get involved? And he actually responded. So, to have been part of the relationship that we've seen grow and nurture, and from the DMs to the experiences that we've had together to the courses that we've taught, like, I just really appreciate everything that you continue to do for the industry, because it really does make such a drastic difference for providing that clarity of information and those experiences for people that may be a little hesitant and maybe a little bit nervous on how to get started, or, just having that warm, welcoming mentorship attitude. I think that's definitely something that anyone that's listening, like, reach out and meet your heroes, because they definitely will not disappoint you. So thanks for being here, Alan.
You got it, man. Thank you so much. Right back.